Welcome to Conversations with the ERC5. My name is Grace Speroni, and today I am so delighted to have with us Therese from Rick's Place. Therese, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It is so wonderful to have you here, and I'm going to try really hard to not talk so much so that you can talk and share Rick's Place with everyone. I mean, it is such an amazing little gem. It's just fabulous, and I bounced into your to your space in Wilbraham, totally unannounced, in a place where I was just like so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do, and you just like the sun started shining, and everything was like going to be okay. You had just such a fabulous, calming effect on me, and just being in Rick's Place. Like, it was sunny, it was happy, and it was like, we're going to be okay. You were fabulous. Please share with our audience what you do, and how beautifully you do it.
Well, thank you. So we are a grief support organization, and we work with youth and families after someone significant has died. And so sometimes people will come in, just as you did, and they will say, we've had this terrible loss. How can you be of help to us? And we are located in Post Office Park in Wilbraham. And we are named for Rick Thorpe, who actually grew up in Wilbraham and was working in New York and died in Tower 2 on 9/11. And he left behind a young daughter and his wife. And local friends and family in Wilbraham recognized at that point that there really wasn't grief support. There just wasn't enough for families after death. And so they said, we need to do something. So back in 2007, they started Rick's Place. And so what we do is we meet with youth ages 5 to 18 and their caregivers 2 evenings a month, and we provide a peer support model of grief support. And so really, when you talk about that feeling of it's going to be okay, what we try to do is provide that space for youth and their caregivers to say, come together as a community after your loss, recognize you aren't alone, and that we're here for you.
And you do that so well. And there's so many, we talked about so many different things.
Yes.
And nobody wants to talk about that. It's not a comfortable topic of conversation. However, as I learned, it's like, well, we have to have these conversations. If we have them beforehand, for me, it was the loss of my daughter's family pet. But it was amazing. We touched on so many things besides that. And it was like, why aren't we offering your services everywhere? Literally, like in hospitals where sometimes you have parents who are passing. There should be someone there to guide the family through these things. Like, you should be everywhere. And that's why I'm so excited to have you here, because so many times it's what we don't know.
Right.
And when I came to you, it was like, oh, we just had lost the dog. And it was actually my daughter's dog, and her son was very upset. And then there's 2 cousins, and they were saddened too. And it was actually the littlest one in the group that was most, I don't want to say affected, but his impact that, was like, oh, wow, Joey. And everything that you guided us through was just so wonderful for him, because he was really sad. But then you gave him that beautiful heart, and he keeps it in his jacket pocket.
Yes.
And he just takes it out, and he says it makes him happy. And it's like, what a great thing. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do that for our youth when they're going through loss of a parent, of a friend.
Right.
Even, when you're in school and all of a sudden you lose a classmate. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that is one of the things that we work hard on, which is helping the families who come to us recognize that they don't need to be alone in their grief. But we also do other things in the community, like we do professional development for school personnel, for social services organizations, about the impact of grief on a family, because so many times people think that grief is something that happens and then you immediately get over it, right? Like they want you to go back to being who you were within a few days or a couple of months. And what we really try to help people recognize is that that student in your classroom or that family member who's had that death, they're not going to be who they were the day before the death, that they are the day after a death. And so really, how do we help people feel less uncomfortable talking about a loss? Because grieving is a natural process and we need to leave space for it. And so we do that on site. We have trained volunteers who facilitate our grief groups with kids. And while the kids are in groups, we have the grown-up caregivers in adult groups that are talking about how do you parent a child who is grieving. And that's not easy, right? Parenting is hard. Parenting when your child and or you are grieving is exponentially harder. And so how do we provide community support that allows the families to feel seen and heard and feel like they can manage their grief?
Yeah, because, and again, I learned all of these wonderful things from you and different things that you shared with me. You know, for instance, a parent that may have a diagnosis.
Yes.
It's the first, and I think about this often because I would just say, oh, yeah, everything's going to be okay, right? Because you don't want them to be worried. You don't want, and that's not the right thing to do. And it was like, thank goodness that we met. But it's like, how many of us, that is our, as adults, as parents, oh, we just want to smooth it over and make it okay. And it's like, but it's not.
Well,
and that's not always the right
I mean, it's the best intention, right?
Yes,
I mean, and what we try to do is we want to fix things. We don't want to see kids in pain. We don't want to see families in pain.
Right.
One of the things we know about grief is it cannot be fixed, right? And so how do we leave space for it? And so we have families who call us and they'll say, I don't know how to tell my child that this person has died or is dying or that this is about to happen. And so one of the things we always encourage is age-appropriate, accurate explanations, because what we know about kids is if they don't have something that is age-appropriate for them, they will make something up to try to make sense of it, and they'll often hold themselves responsible. And that's what we do not want. We don't want a child to feel they are responsible for anyone's illness or death. And so it really is about how do you as the adult open the door for the conversation and share what's age appropriate and then ask what questions they have or what are they thinking. As we mentioned when you were with us, we use a lot of books. Books are a wonderful way to open up the topic.
Yes.
And then I know you mentioned the pocket heart, and the pocket hearts are something really special to us. So they're these, as you mentioned, this tiny little hand-sewn heart that some wonderful volunteers of ours, we call them the Buddy Bag Ladies. So they're former teachers from Ludlow. And they sew these little hearts for us, and we give them out to kids. And just as you explained, a child can hold on to it and pull it out whenever they want to feel close to the animal or the person who has died.
And you know, after I left, and I've been giving this a lot of thought, I came from senior living. So in senior living, it was trying to talk to families about the importance of hospice and sharing that hospice was not so much for the person who was transitioning as it was for the families. And I was like, this is what Rick's Place is. And we need to get that message out there because, again, as I just said, my first instinct as, you know, mom, grandma now is just like, oh, we want to just make it all okay. But we can't. We can't. Sometimes. We just can't. It's the reality of life. And Rick's Place is that hope. The hope, and you provide the guidance. Because sometimes, again, our intentions might be good because we don't want to cause the child any pain. But sometimes by not being honest about what's happening and trying to just glide over it, we may be causing more hurt because, to your point, we do all need to grieve.
Yes.
We need to have that time to just have that meltdown, whatever it is. It's always different. And then as I reflect, it's like, yes, you know, when I lost my dad, there was one kind of grieving, right? And when I lost a friend, that was a different. And we all have to understand that. And it's a topic we don't want to talk about. But how do we have these conversations?
And that's the piece the point that we try to raise, which is it is a topic we don't want to have to talk about. But in fact, it ends up happening to everybody.
Yes.
Sometimes far sooner than feels reasonable, right? And yet we can't deny it. Because when we're working with young people, they carry it with them forever. Grief doesn't actually go away. The goal is to learn to integrate it into your life so you sort of live around that hole that the memory of the person has left behind, right? And we need kids to know that there are people in their lives who believe in their capacity to manage this loss and go on and be successful, right?
Yes.
And that is where the community is really important.
You know, I hate to say this, but I'm a firm believer with community, everything is a lot easier. We just have to learn to, we put up that wall maybe, and if we take that wall down, there is a whole community ready to embrace us and guide us on our journey.
And that's one of the things that we do, which is we are there with the families, no matter what place they are in their journey, right? We have some families who are very new to a loss. They're 3 or 4 months out. That's actually the soonest that a family comes to us, 3 months after a death. But there are some who come to us and the person died 4 years ago and they're now realizing, oh, we could use some support in this. And so wherever they are on their loss journey, they can come be a part of our program.
You meet them there.
Yep, exactly.
And there's different programs.
Yeah.
Depending on...
Well, the main program is the 2 evenings a month with the ages between 5 and 18 and the caregivers in their groups. I'm very excited to say we will be moving to a bigger space in Post Office Park this spring, much later this spring.
Congratulations. How
thank
wonderful.
You. We're thrilled. Glenn Garvey and the Garvey Group has been wonderfully helpful to us, so we are looking forward to that. So we do plan to do some more specific programming, some loss-specific programs, some grandparent support. I know you and I have talked about grandparent support.
Yeah.
And so we do plan to do some bigger programming, but really our gold standard is our family support that happens twice a month.
And much needed.
Yeah. Yes.
We talked on so many things, and I know I have to be cognizant of our time because we could just go on and on. I could anyhow, because again, I can't say enough wonderful things about your service and what you provide. And I do think it is so important how we look at death. Yeah. It's a fact of life, but one that we try to not really address unless we have to. And in those moments, that's when we most need community. And we need someone to guide us, to make sure that our children, grandchildren, that we're guiding them in the right direction. So this is something they learn to live with and not live in fear of and associate different things with what happened, right? Oh, mom went away in an ambulance and never came back, so now we don't ever want to see that. That's what happens sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Because we don't want to.
And 99% of the time, people are doing what they think is best,
Yes,
right? But what we're saying
always.
is what we know about child development is that it does need to be age appropriate and accurate information because otherwise kids will make stuff up. And it's usually not helpful to them to do that. And so how do we be there and help people get the language to do it? I also want to point out that we aren't an organization that is all just sadness and tears all the time, right? So people come to us and they are often so relieved that they are in a space where people understand. It makes a significant difference.
You brightened my day. You really did. And I am very grateful for everything that we touched upon that day because there was much more. But I am grateful that you were able to shine that little bit of light. And it did make a difference. So for those who are listening and they want to know more about Rick's Place, do you need more volunteers? How can they help you get the message out? What is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So the easiest is to go to our website, which is www.ricksplacema.org, or give us a call at 413 279-2010. And just call with any questions or thoughts. On our website, we do have a tab for people who are interested in volunteering.
Okay.
We always, of course, look for donations, but just reach out to us and have a conversation with us. We are happy to talk about what can be a challenging topic.
And you're very easy to talk to. I highly recommend they contact you.
Thank you.
I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And thank you for joining us for Conversations with the ERC5 here at Stonegate Studios in Wilbraham. If you'd like to be the next guest here, go to our website, erc5.com, and you can sign up there.